What's going on, Clarity Coders? This is the start of our OpenCV tutorial series. Now, a lot of you have seen a lot of the videos, tutorials out there about object detection, AI, and OpenCV, and you probably followed a few and haven't been able to create your own stuff after those tutorials. This series is for you. We're gonna move through the basics as fast as we can to get to the cool stuff, but I'm gonna explain everything in a way that you can create anything you can imagine under the sun once we're done with this series. So don't skip any videos. Hang with me, we'll get through it and we'll get to the cool stuff as quick as we can. Let's not waste any more time and jump right in. So the first thing I'm going to do is just create a new Jupyter notebook. So I'm going to click on the Python Jupyter notebook here. Once we get this open up, we're going to actually install our libraries. Now that's pretty easy with Jupyter notebooks. We're going to just do a pip install opencv-python. You're going to do the same thing in command prompt if you're using some other type of IDE rather. I'm going to hold shift and hit enter. That'll run that cell, and you can see that we're going to work on installing OpenCV. Now once we get this installed, we can go ahead and import OpenCV. So we're going to do import CV2. And then we can go ahead and read in our image right away. So we're going to do image equals, and then you can do whatever your file name is. Now again, you don't have to use the same file as me, but if you want to, it's on the GitHub. It needs to be in the same location as the script, or you have to navigate to the image with your file path. So if you just put it in the same directory as your script, you don't have to really worry about anything other than the file name itself. So we're going to do cv2.imread to read in the image, and then whatever the file name was of your image you're using. So we're going to do girl original.jpg, and I'll run that cell and we'll run it in. Now let's just take a look at it, a couple things, and see what we're really working with when we load an image into OpenCV. So first, if you're working in some other IDE, you can print out the image to see what it looks like. If you're in Jupyter Notebooks, you can just do image and print it out like that. And you can kind of see what our image is made up of. So again, you can kind of make some assumptions here. You can see 3 numbers. We're going to typically assume that's some sort of RGB value, a red, green, blue, and you would be pretty close to being correct. In OpenCV, it actually translates image to blue, green, red, so the order is a little different than maybe what you would originally think, but the idea is the same. The image is stored in pixels of row, column, and then your colors. So if we look at this image, let's do something different. Let's do image.shape. Remember, if you're not in Jupyter Notebooks, you need to surround this with a print statement to see the output. You can see that we have an image that is 1500 pixels up and down vertically. So that's your rows. Then 1000 columns, and then 3 different colors. So that's our blue, green, red. Now you may be wondering, or a good question to ask is, what type is this image that we're working with? So the type is a NumPy array. Now this is something, this type, and then seeing what you're working with is something I do, especially when I'm working with new libraries. You want to know exactly what you're working with. Now let's go ahead and show that image to the screen. So with OpenCV, we can do cv2.imshow. This first parameter is going to be whatever you want to title your window. So we can just call it original. And then the variable that you want to show in your image window. So remember, we saved ours as img. It could be image, it could be whatever you want to call it, pizza, I don't care. Then on the next line, we're going to say how long we want that to show up. In our case, we want it to show up until we close the window. So we're going to pass in a parameter of 0 here. So now if we run this cell, we should see our image. If you make sure you capitalize the K there. Now you might see it kind of look like it's hanging here. That's because it's actually opening another window. So we can find that. Let me slide it over. I have 2 displays here. And you can see that we've opened up the original image. Now it's a very large image, so it's kind of taking up a lot of our screen. So something that we want to do right away maybe is to resize that image. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to go ahead and create a new variable for that. You could reuse the previous variable if you wanted to. So I'm going to go ahead and say our variable is small. We're going to set it equal to, and we're going to do cv2.resize. And what do we want to resize? We want to resize our image. What are the dimensions we want to resize it to? Now you could force it to resize to certain dimensions, but that could skew it, get it out of whack. So we want to keep the dimensions the same. So I'm going to pass in 0, 0 for my dimensions. And for my percentages, I'm going to take it to 50% both vertically and horizontally. And that's it. That should work. So we're going to go ahead and shift enter. Now you can see we don't get any output here, but let's see if we made any change. So what we can do is we can do small.shape, shift enter, and you can see here that we've cut both of our dimensions in half, which makes sense because we had 50% of our original value. Now if we copy these lines from above, we can change this window to small. Make sure to change your variable that you're displaying to small. Run this, and you can see that we got a more manageable sized image right here. Perfect. So now how do we access values and why would we want to? So a lot of AI programs or masking or things like that, object detection, we're looking for specific values in either a similar color or something like that. So we want to know how we can break down an image. We can do that pretty simply with a NumPy array. So I'm going to continue working with the small image. You could work with the original, it doesn't matter. The small is just more manageable. So I'm going to say small, and then we're going to access it with square brackets just like we would a NumPy array or a list. And I want the first row in the first column. So remember, indexing, we're starting at 0. Now if I get that, I get 3 values back, which makes sense, right? Because I gave the row I wanted, I gave the column I wanted, and so it's going to give me the other 3 values that are left there. Now these are our blue, green, and red value of our image in the top left corner. You can see here that the values are 175, 174, and 164. Let's change that just to see if we can affect it. We're going to set that equal instead to white, which is 255, 255, 255. Now, if we run this exact code from before, again, if you're in IDE, you have to put it below, but we're going to go ahead and run this code again and show the image and see if we have any change. Now, at first glance, it looks identical, but if I do some fancy zooming magic here in the editing after this, you can see that we did in fact change the very top left pixel to white. Now we can do slicing just like we normally would as well with a list or whatever it is. If you're not totally familiar with that, you can find good tutorials out there for slicing and indexing. The idea is we can say how far we want it to go, how far we want it to grab. So in this case, we grab the first row. Instead of just the first row, let's grab the first 10 rows. So what this is saying, it says grab row 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now 10 is exclusive, so we're not going to grab the 10th row. So we're going to grab 0 through 9 and then 100 columns, just so we can tell the difference. And we're going to change those to white. So now if I run this again, make sure you run it again, we're going to show our image again. And you can see now that I grabbed the first 10 rows, so it's not going as far down, and 100 columns over. And we change those to white. So we can change the value as simple as that. Now we have some awesome ways to convert the image to different color spaces as well. So let's make a variable called gray, and we'll convert this image to grayscale and see what that looks like. So we're going to say cv2.cvt color. We're going to pass in the image that we're using. You could use the original one. I'm going to use the small one because I still want it to be the smaller size. And then I'm going to say cv2.color underscore bgr2 gray. Of course, nothing changed here, but you'll notice something interesting if we do a shape on this variable now. So we can do gray.shape, and now you'll notice that we're missing our third dimension. So we have our rows, our columns still, but we don't have 3 for our color space. Now, why is that? So let's grab the exact same pixel. We're going to grab gray at the first row and the first column, remember the 0 index, and see what that looks like. Now you'll notice it has just a single value, which makes sense because we don't have that 3 dimension anymore. Now remember, we converted it to grayscale, so all these will just have a value from 0 to 255. Now let's see what that looks like. We can copy our code from above. I'll paste it below. Now we're no longer just a small image, we're a grayscale image here. And now you can see we've converted it to grayscale. You'll notice we still have our white bar from before because remember we used that small variable to create our grayscale image. Now we have one task left. Let's go ahead and save this image. So we're going to do cv2.IamRight. You can call this whatever you want. Let's call ours gray.png. And then what do we want to save? We want to save our gray image. I'll run that. And now if we go back to our original directory, you can see that we've created a new JPEG image in that area. That's it. So we got working with images. How you access the values is exactly the same, whether you're pulling in live image from a webcam like you've seen, or if you're pulling in individual images. So from here, we're going to jump right into some more advanced topics in the next lesson. I'm going to be releasing these every week if this is in the present time. If it's in the future, I should have it done already. You can go ahead and move right on, and we'll continue down this path. If you get confused or you're stuck or you're hung up on any video in this series, jump into the Discord. This series is for you guys. I know it's not going to get as many views as some of the AI programs and different cool things like that. So if you need any help or you get stuck in this, feel free to message me directly on the Discord and we'll get you figured out. Until next time, keep coding.